What is happening with Bobbi Brown at 56? For years, fans have worried about his health and personal struggles. Has he finally spoken the truth about what everyone feared? Bobbi has faced many losses and hard times, but now he is opening up like never before.
And, you have a lot of money. There's so many things you can do, and it's coming at you. Being in the business that we're in, it just comes at you.
Is this the moment fans have been waiting for? What did he reveal that has people talking? Let's find out. Bobbi Brown opened up about their troubled relationship in a shocking interview and later in his book, Every Little Step. He talked about drug use, cheating, and even physical abuse. Some people, including Whitney's mother, Cissy Houston, were upset with what he revealed. But Bobbi said he just wanted to tell his side of the story. He admitted to making mistakes and said he was now trying to live a better life.
We did together. There was no introducing her to anything. She already knew what she knew about drugs.
One of the most disturbing things Bobbi shared was that he and Whitney were often high in front of their daughter. He said Whitney's drug use got worse after their daughter was born. He tried to stop her from doing drugs around Bobbi, but Whitney did whatever she wanted. Bobbi was just a child, but she had to take care of her mother when she was too high to function. Sometimes she would put Whitney to bed and try to clean up after her. Bobbi admitted that both he and Whitney failed their daughter. They were too busy using drugs and fighting with each other to be good parents. Looking back, Bobbi said he felt deep pain and regret for how they raised Kristina. Bobbi also revealed details about his relationship with Whitney. He said they had a very passionate love life. Whenever they were together, they could not keep their hands off each other.
I didn't get into really heavy until I met Whitney, but it destroys people.
People who knew them said that despite their problems, Whitney truly loved Bobbi. She felt safe with him and believed he cared about her. Bobbi described Whitney as a very sensual woman, and their chemistry was intense. He admitted that they would often be all over each other in public, and it wasn't just for show. Their love life was real and powerful.
And, you have a lot of money. There's so many things you can do, and it's coming at you. Being in the business that we're in, it just comes at you.
But their relationship was not all passion and romance. Bobbi also admitted that there was violence. In 2003, he was charged with domestic violence. Whitney had once said that she was the one who did the hitting, but Bobbi told a different story in his book. He described an incident where he got into a fight with a drug dealer. Whitney tried to stop him, but he was too angry. In the heat of the moment, he turned around and slapped Whitney. The second it happened, he regretted it. He knew he had crossed a line he could never undo. No matter what led to that moment, he would always be seen as a man who hit his wife. He felt ashamed of what he had done and wished it had never happened. People who knew them said they had a Bonnie and Clyde kind of relationship. They felt like it was them against the world, but in the end, their love was not enough to save them from their troubles. He says he has changed and is trying to be a better man. He wants to focus on his family and make good choices. But the memories of his past, his marriage to Whitney, and the mistakes they made will always stay with him. Their love story was tragic, and Bobbi knows he will never escape the pain of what happened.
Bobbi Brown's son, Bobby Jr., has passed away at the age of 28.
Aside from issues, sadly his son, Bobby Brown Jr., died at the age of 28. His body was found in his home in Los Angeles in November 2020. At first, the police said there was no sign of foul play, but later an autopsy report showed that he died from using alcohol and fentanyl. Fentanyl is a very strong drug that can be deadly, especially when mixed with other drugs. His death was ruled an accident.
Now, Brown Jr.'s girlfriend found him dead on his bedroom floor, and his death has been ruled an accident.
His girlfriend was the last person to see him alive that morning. Later in the day, she found him lying on the floor of his bedroom, not moving. She quickly called for help, but when the paramedics arrived, it was too late. They pronounced him dead on the scene. It was a heartbreaking moment for his family and friends. Bobbi Brown Jr. had a history of using drugs and alcohol. He was struggling with these problems for a long time. Sadly, many people in his family also faced similar struggles. His father, Bobby Brown.
Combination of alcohol, cocaine, and fentanyl was to blame.
His daughter, Bobbi Kristina Brown, also died in a very sad way.
Well, breaking news this hour about the death of Whitney Houston's daughter. A medical examiner in Atlanta says Bobbi Kristina Brown's death was caused by intoxication and immersion in water.
Bobbi, the only child of Whitney and Bobby Brown. The autopsy report revealed that she died from a condition called lobar pneumonia. This type of pneumonia happens when part of the lung gets infected, making it hard to breathe. The report also said that her death was linked to being found unresponsive in a bathtub, along with drug intoxication.
Was caused by intoxication and immersion in water. The 22-year-old died in July, 6 months after she was found unresponsive in her bathtub.
On January 31st, 2015, Bobbi Kristina was found unconscious in her bathtub at her home near Atlanta. She was rushed to the hospital, but she never fully recovered. She spent months in a coma before she passed away on July 26, 2015. Her death was heartbreaking for her family, especially because it was so similar to how her mother, Whitney Houston, died. Whitney was found in a bathtub at a hotel in 2012 and died from drowning, with drugs found in her system.
Paramedics raced to the 4th floor and found a lifeless Whitney Houston inside her hotel room bathtub. They tried in vain to resuscitate her with CPR.
The autopsy showed that Bobbi Kristina had several in her body, including marijuana, alcohol, related substances, anxiety medications, and morphine. It was unclear if the morphine was from heroin use. The medical examiner said that her death was not from natural causes, but they could not say for sure if it was an accident or something done on purpose. Because of this, they listed her cause of death as undetermined. Bobby Brown was devastated by the loss of his daughter. There was a lot of suspicion surrounding Bobbi Kristina's death. Her boyfriend, Nick Gordon, was accused in a lawsuit of giving her a toxic cocktail and then putting her face down in a tub of cold water. The lawsuit claimed that this caused her brain damage and eventually led to her death. Nick Gordon denied these accusations, and his lawyers called the lawsuit false and unfair.
Gordon's death comes nearly 5 years after Brown was found face down and unresponsive in a bathtub. Gordon was later found liable in her wrongful death lawsuit.
Even though no criminal charges were filed, Bobbi Kristina's family continued to push for justice. Her father's lawyer said that the legal process was painful for Bobbi, as he had to grieve for his daughter while everything was so public. He hoped that one day justice would be served and that the family could find some peace. She had a difficult life after losing her mother, and her own passing was eerily similar. Many people believe she never truly recovered from the pain of losing Whitney Houston. Her family continues to remember her with love, and fans still feel the sadness of her story. While her death remains a mystery in some ways, one thing is certain: she left this world too soon.
She was a sweetheart. She will be missed, that's for sure.
Yeah.
She was a good girl.
Back to Whitney and Bobbi's relationship. A close family member said that they had reached a point where there was no more drama. Bobbi still loved Whitney, not just as the mother of his child, but also as the woman he spent his youth with. But their journey to peace was not easy. Their relationship was filled with problems, fights, and secrets. Bobbi Brown claimed that Whitney was not always faithful in their marriage. He said that she cheated on him before he ever cheated on her. According to Bobbi, she had affairs with producers and artists she worked with over the years. He did not want to name anyone because some of them were still his friends. But when he first found out about one of her affairs, he was shocked. He could not believe that she would betray him like that. He thought their love was special, and it hurt him deeply. After that, he felt like he had the right to do the same. If she could cheat, then he could too. That was his way of getting back at her, even though it only made things worse between them. One of the most shocking things Bobbi Brown claimed in his book was that Whitney once faked a miscarriage. He said that when he arrived to be with her after the supposed loss, he started feeling something was not right. He was not a doctor, but she did not seem like a woman who had just lost a baby. Just a few days after, she was already back to work, acting as if nothing had happened. Bobbi also said that he never saw any proof that she was actually pregnant. This made him believe that the whole story was made up by her public relations team. According to him, they created this story to explain why Whitney was suddenly getting married to Bobbi. When he asked Whitney about it, she insisted that she had really been pregnant, but Bobbi did not believe her. Even years later, he still thought that it was all a lie. Despite all their problems, Bobbi and Whitney helped each other grow as artists. Whitney had a beautiful voice, and Bobbi said she taught him a lot about singing. She showed him how to use his voice properly, how to blend notes, and how to control his voice when needed. Just being around her made him want to be a better singer. He respected her talent and admired the way she could sing effortlessly. On the other hand, Bobbi helped Whitney with her dancing. At first, she was not very comfortable with dancing. She did not have a natural rhythm, but she had style. If they danced together, she could manage to keep up. They both loved dancing, and Bobbi even sent his dancers to train Whitney when she was on tour. Over time, she improved and became a better performer. He believed that by working together, they made each other stronger entertainers. Many people saw Whitney Houston as a sweet and perfect woman, but Bobbi Brown said that was not the full truth. According to him, Whitney was not the innocent princess that Hollywood made her out to be. People expected her to be perfect, but in reality, she had struggles like anyone else. A close friend of the family also said that Whitney had insecurities, family problems, and emotional struggles. She was strong on the outside, but she carried a lot of pain inside.
But there have been times when I know I was going through a lot of emotional stress, and my eating habits were awful.
Bobbi said that if people watched their reality show, Being Bobbi Brown, they would see the real Whitney. She was fun, straightforward, and unfiltered. She was not afraid to speak her mind or be herself. The show was not about drugs or problems, as some people thought. It was simply about a woman and a man who were in love. Bobbi wanted people to know that Whitney was a real person, not just a celebrity image. She was honest and never tried to pretend to be someone she was not. If she had something to say, she would say it without hesitation. She did not care what others thought, as long as she looked good and felt confident. That was her attitude.
First of all, let's get one thing straight. Crack is cheap. I make too much money to ever smoke crack. Let's get that straight, okay?
Bobbi Brown's book revealed a lot of private details about his relationship with Whitney. Some of his claims were shocking, and many people had different opinions about them. Whether his stories were completely true or not, one thing was certain. Whitney and Bobbi had a complicated love story that the world would never forget.
I mean, when I grew up with New Edition, we smoked weed, we drank beers and things like that.
Bobbi Brown has been through a lot in his life. He was once one of the biggest R&B stars, but his life took a dark turn because of drugs.
And, you know, you have a lot of money. There's so many things you can do. And it's coming at you. Being in the business that we're in, I mean, it just comes at you.
He was addicted to crack, heroin, cocaine, and alcohol. His marriage to Whitney Houston was full of love, but also full of problems because of drugs. Many people blame Bobbi for Whitney's use, but he says she was already using drugs before they got married.
We did with her. There was no introducing her to anything. She already knew what she knew about drugs.
On the day of their wedding in 1992, Bobbi was very nervous. He locked himself in a bathroom, drinking and using. His friend, Alicia Etheridge, helped calm him down and get him out of the bathroom. But when he came out, he was shocked. He saw Whitney using cocaine for the first time. This surprised him, but at the same time, it made him feel like they had something in common. He later realized that Whitney had been using for a long time before they met. At first, their marriage was happy. Bobbi said Whitney was the sweetest person, but things got worse over time. What started as partying on weekends turned into a serious problem. Cocaine became a big issue in their marriage, and both of them struggled with addiction. Bobbi didn't just use cocaine, he also smoked heroin and crack, sometimes mixing it with marijuana. Bobbi admitted that addiction is very hard. He said that at first, you don't realize how bad it is, but over time, it just gets worse and worse. He had many moments where he hit a low point, but one of the worst was in 1997. He was on tour with his old band, New Edition, and Whitney was with him. He was so high that he thought Whitney was trying to kill him. In his paranoia, he ran off the tour bus carrying a gun and drugs in his pockets. He ran through a field screaming that people were trying to kill him. The owner of the property came out with a shotgun, ready to shoot. That was one of the lowest moments in his life, but that was not his true rock bottom. That came in 2000 when he was sent to jail for 65 days in Florida. He had violated his parole from a drunk driving case 4 years earlier. When he went to jail, he was at his worst, still deeply addicted to. But when he came out, he was completely clean. He no longer had any drugs in his system. He was ready to start fresh. However, when Whitney picked him up from jail, she had drugs in the car. At that moment, Bobbi realized he had changed. He no longer wanted the drugs. He was grateful to be clean. But this created a problem in their marriage. He wanted Whitney to get sober too, but she wasn't ready. This caused tension between them. He said it became very hard for them to stay together after that. He believes they would still be together today if it weren't for drugs. In 2006, Whitney decided to leave Bobbi. Their divorce was finalized in 2007. Bobbi said he walked away from everything. He had $55 million when he entered the marriage, but he left with nothing. He even gave up custody of their daughter, Bobbi Kristina. After the divorce, he had no home. He lived in his car, parked in the driveway of his friend Alicia Etheridge. Later, Alicia became his wife. When Whitney died, Bobbi was on tour with New Edition when he heard the news. His bandmates told him after he finished performing. Bobbi broke down in tears. He couldn't believe it. It was the worst moment of his life. He wished he had been there for her. He believes that if they had stayed together, maybe they could have helped each other get clean. Maybe she would still be alive.
Paramedics raced to the 4th floor and found a lifeless Whitney Houston inside her hotel room bathtub. They tried in vain to resuscitate her with CPR.
He has been sober from drugs for 20 years and has stopped drinking alcohol for the last 2 years. He now has a new life with his wife, Alicia, and his other children. He even made a documentary about his life called Bobbi Brown, Every Little Step. In the documentary, he talks about his struggles, his mistakes, and his journey to becoming a better man.
He's finding you can't go home again if home's not there.
The tree is gone now. I used to climb all the time.
The climbing tree is gone, and the boy grew into a man.
Bobbi recently, he opened up about something very personal, something that changed the way he saw himself in the world. He said that when he was a child, a priest tried to touch him inappropriately. This moment stayed with him for years and made him turn to drugs and alcohol to escape the pain. Bobbi grew up in a tough neighborhood in Boston. Life was not easy for him. One of the first painful memories he had was seeing his mother being beaten and arrested by the police. She was only trying to help their neighbors, but the police did not care. They took her away, and young Bobbi was left feeling scared and helpless. This was just the beginning of the hard times he would face. After his mother was arrested, Bobbi was taken to a place that was supposed to be safe for children. It was run by religious leaders, and people believed it was a good place. But for Bobbi, it was not safe at all. One of the priests tried to touch him in a way that no child should ever be touched. At the time, Bobbi did not fully understand what was happening. He just knew it made him feel very uncomfortable and scared. He fought back and ran away from that place, but the memory of what happened never left him. Even though he tried to forget, the pain stayed deep inside him. It was like a wound that never healed. As he grew older, he started acting out. He didn't like following rules and he wanted to do things his own way. He found comfort in music, but he also started using drugs and alcohol. He didn't realize it at the time, but he was trying to block out the pain of what had happened to him as a child. For many years, Bobbi didn't talk about what happened. He buried it deep inside and pretended it didn't exist. But no matter how hard he tried to ignore it, the pain was still there. It affected his choices, his relationships, and his health. He struggled with addiction for many years, and even though he became famous, he was still fighting his own battles. Now, after all these years, Bobbi has finally found the courage to speak about it. He says that talking about it has helped him heal. He can now see why he made some of the bad choices in his life. He understands why he turned to drugs and alcohol. It was his way of trying to forget the pain, but in the end, it only made things worse. Bobbi has been free from drugs for 20 years now. He is trying to live a better life for himself and his family. He has lost a lot, including 2 of his children, and he doesn't want to lose anymore. He wants people to know that pain can lead to bad choices, but healing is possible. He hopes that by sharing his story, he can help others who have been through the same kind of pain. Looking back, Bobbi wishes he had spoken about it sooner. He knows that holding in the pain for so long made things worse, but now he is ready to move forward. He wants to be there for his family, and he wants to live a life that honors the lessons he has learned.